this campus. That means the world to me. Ladies and gentlemen, it's appropriate that the 37th head football coach at the University of Montana is a native Montanan, Mr. Bobby Hauck.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate that, and yeah, that's humbling to say the least. So good morning. It was almost surreal walking in here this morning and seeing everybody, and you know, probably 90% of my best friends in the world are in this town, and all the family, and I'm trying not to get choked up because it's an emotional day for me. But you know, everybody's got a few more wrinkles and a little more gray hair or less, but y'all look damn good. All right, so and I'm with you on all that stuff. So I'm thrilled to be back as the head coach of my alma mater for the second time. It's a real privilege and an honor to be the head coach here, and this place is a special place to the Hauck family, and not just the ones sitting here that I'm going to introduce, but generations have come through this place. I'm a third generation alum. Some of my progeny are going to be the fourth generation, and hopefully we go beyond that. But you know, I grew up I was born in Missoula. My extended family, grandparents and great-grandparents and parents were all from Butte. I was born here, as I mentioned. Stacy was born at St. Pat's. We both went to college here, grew up in Big Timber. She grew up in the Mission Valley, and our roots with this place go deep. And it's just such a special day, and I'll obviously have a bunch of remarks here. But I want to introduce my family, which I'm going to try to introduce lots of folks here because there are a lot of them here. But obviously it starts with, well, I'm going to start with the two most important ones, and starting with my mother-in-law, Carol, because she despite the resistance to the wedding and all those things, that we've got some water under the bridge, and she actually showed up to the ceremony, and we've become very close. Her husband Ray and my mom Eleanor, so they're the ones. And then my wife Stacy, my daughter Elise, raise your hand, Lacey, the redhead, the Montanan, my daughter Sydney, and my daughter Allie, and then my son Robbie's not here. Obviously, he's got his own deal going, but he's listening in on the phone right now. So, hey, if this goes long into class, you go to class. All right? He didn't know if he could get it streaming, so I dialed his phone, and I was sitting there, and he's apparently listening. We'll see. Cousin Doug, Uncle Tom, Cousin Nancy, Cousins Frank and Susan, going around the room. Brother-in-law Jason, Sister Katie's going to show up. She's getting out of class. I mean, is Katie here?
Ryan.
Where are you? Hey, way to go. Ryan, I know it's a Loyola shirt, but you're wearing blue at this press conference. Topic, and we're going to leave that where it is. That's a topic for another day. So I can't wait to get going on that, as you all know, but we'll leave that for another day. This is just really, really special and cool for me. And a lot of people have helped with this, and I don't generally, my remarks will be brief here, but there's some things I want to say. I don't generally work off of notes, but I wrote some things down last night and this morning, and I like to be off the cuff, generally speaking, but there's some things I want to say, and there's a certain way I want to say them today, because you only get one chance to make a first impression, and I want to make sure I say that right. So first of all, thanks to Kent, thank you to Sheila Stearns, to incoming President Bodner, and to Commissioner Christian for bringing us home and believing that we were going to do a great job this time around. It's been a really interesting several days, a lot of emotion, and there are a lot of great things about sports. The passion that's demonstrated by fans, and as we know, one of the best things about this place is that there is no apathy here. Apathy is the enemy The only good places to be a college football coach are places where people care, and people here deeply care, and everyone has an opinion, which they're not afraid to share, and that's okay. But what's and Ken touched on this, but I want to say it too. What's not okay is I was told this morning that in the paper, Miss Davy had some commentary, and everyone has a right to their opinion, and she should not have been attacked for sharing those opinions. I mean, it's an American right and a liberty we have to voice that, and respect is a core value. We're going to all treat each other with dignity and respect around here. It's a core value of this university. It's a core value of this football program, and it has to be a core value within the fan base because we're all together in this. It's Grizz Nation. It's not football players and football coaches and Grizz Nation. We're part of that group, and everybody has to buy into that. That's a mandate from all involved. I've heard from hundreds, and when I say hundreds, Gene and I were just laughing about my phone I was showing here. I haven't answered a text since yesterday at noon, and we're going up over around 400 right now. I've heard from literally hundreds of former players, community people, alums, staff, and faculty on campus. I'm deeply appreciative of all the good words and the congratulations. You know, our former players have been absolutely terrific, almost fanatic. Most of all, I appreciate Dave Dickinson for not taking the job. You know, you know, I want to talk a little bit about football. I thought that was good too, you know what I mean? And true. So I want to talk a little bit about football as well, because that's kind of why we're here to a degree. You know, I love football. I love coaching football. I love being on the practice field with the team. I love being on the sideline on game day. I truly love practice more than anything else. I love spring ball because you're just coaching guys. And I love being out there, working with student athletes, pushing them to be the best they can be. That's what, I mean, I just feel so blessed to have actually made a profession out of this nonsense. I mean, I've never had to go to work. You know, after I worked for Montana Rail Link in the summer and worked in the lumber mill and stacking hay, I figured out that is not what I wanted to do for a living. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but being able to be a football coach as a profession has been really special. And it's taken my family to many places around all good places around the western United States, but I'm really honored to be back home. And as I looked in the pictures in the Hall of Champions and coming up that elevator right there specifically, it juiced me up. I'm fired up. I want to get back to that. You know, they don't show pictures of scoreboards with the Grizz having less than the opponent on it. And I'm really excited to start today to building this thing back up to where it needs to be. And I'm reinvigorated, I'm energized, and maybe more so just after walking here from the offices. So talking about our record a little bit the last time here, which I'll touch on, and then we'll move to current events. But on and off the field, our guys had success. The football success was great. You know, we had 80 wins in 7 years. We had 3 trips to the national championship game. We had Big Sky Conference championships all 7 years we were here before. And those are great accomplishments. Obviously, some of the numbers are when you look back on them, you're immersed in it. You're intense about the next game. When you're here, you don't necessarily take time to enjoy that. Some of those numbers are pretty incredible. It'd be something to, in a tall order, to try to replicate that. But I'm also really proud of the 104 student athletes over that 7-year span that were named academic All Big Sky Conference, and there are many academic All-Americans. I'm again from Big Timber. I don't know what that number is. It's 104 divided by 7. I'm not good with that, but it's a significant number of guys on each team that were All Big Sky Conference members on the academic side. And there's all kinds of athletes that went on to great things. You know, they not just pro football players, but people, lawyers, teachers, pharmacists, in the business world, accountants, and leaders in their community. And it's going to be great being back together and in arm with those guys. When you take a position as a head football coach, you get to restart, and it's unique to come back to a place. It's happened. This is not way out of the realm of things that have gone on, but it's a little bit unique to go back to a place where you've been previously. And people remember everything, especially people that are passionate about it. And they remember the great times. They remember mistakes you made. Certainly, they'll remember everything. They remember when you went for 2 and didn't get it, should have kicked it. They remember you should have thrown it more, or you should have run it more. Everybody has an opinion on that, and it can be difficult to go back. But I recognize when we were here before, and I'm speaking from the heart here. I recognize when we were here before, we were not perfect. Okay. At one point, we mismanaged with major help from me, our relationship with the student newspaper for a period of time. We had amazing student athletes on our team, students who graduated at a far higher rate than the general student population on campus. But there were times that we also brought some young men into our team that conducted themselves in a manner that wasn't worthy of wearing the Grizzly uniform or that helmet. And I'm ready to work to do a better job on that score as well. Nothing's perfect. College kids aren't perfect. They won't be. We've got a system to deal with everybody, and when they come out the door, they're going to be a better individual than the day they walked in. I can guarantee you that. And there's one other point, and then we'll get going on the trip here. I want to take a moment because it's a topic that's critically important, and it's a difficult one to talk about for this community, for frankly all, when I say all, I mean all college campuses around the country, and for that matter in Hollywood and in our federal government, and that's the issue of sexual assault. I've been saddened to see discussion of my potential return associated with the challenges this university has experienced on that issue. And I left Missoula in 2009, but there was an individual who was a player I recruited, and I'm not here to blame or relive the events of the past, but there was an individual that was here that I recruited that was convicted of that crime. And I want to emphasize the importance of the educational process, of training, shaping the culture, that sexual assault has been evidenced on this campus in particular. It just can't happen. It can never be tolerated. I'm the father of 3 daughters, and I'm also the father of a college-age son, and I worry about all of them at all times. And as I said, it's been singled out here. It's a problem across this country, and we are going to do our darn best to address it. And as a leader of the Grizz football team, I'm going to lead as a positive example for this community, and hopefully across the country people pay attention that we're the gold standard for all of that. So, I just felt like it was important for me to say something along those lines. In the 8 years since I left Missoula, spent some time with amazing people. I spent 3 years working under a legendary head coach in Rocky Long at San Diego State. As I talk about Rocky over the next coming years, you'll all be engaged by his way, and he's a great guy to take some tutelage from. I also worked for 5 years under an absolutely legendary athletic director, Jim Livengood, at UNLV. I'm just so proud of what we accomplished in both those places, though sometimes it's not always quantified on the scoreboard. But I come back here as a better coach than when I left. So, if I can hold up at my end of the bargain, I think we're going to get the job here. That experience the last 7-8 years has been invaluable to me in terms of what I can bring back home. As a football coach, I understand that everybody's got a horse in the race. I understand that we're not going to please everyone, but earning trust is critical to me and a top priority. As a husband, a father to 4 great children, and as a Montanan, I come back here, I'm ready not only to be a great football coach, but a strong advocate and ambassador for this university at a time when we need to go as a university around the state and around our region. And I love this place. It's going to be a very, very, very busy couple of weeks leading up till Christmas time. We have a ton of recruiting to do. I have a commitment to coach an SDSU's bowl game, which will not detract me from the recruiting process, I assure you, because I know where we're going with this thing. So with that, I'd say Grizz Nation, here we go. Together we're going to return to dominance here. Go Grizz. Let's get after this thing. Okay?
Okay, so we will we'll open this up for questions from the media.
Hey, who's with the student newspaper, student reporters? You guys go first.
Hey, Coach.
Watch out for that guy to your left, too, by the way. He's tough.
I guess the first question for me, when you leave here, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered as?
You know, it's interesting because the recirculation and coming back, the priorities are are different. I mean, obviously the priorities on the field are the same. The priorities off the field remain the same to develop people. But in terms of legacy here, I just want to be at some point recognized with all the great guys that have sat in my chair, and maybe someday they'll say that guy was one of the good native sons of Montana. He gave back to the state, and he did a good job and produced something while he was here.
Sir.
Ed O'Brien, Montana Public Radio.
Hi, Ed.
This is kind of a group participation question. Mr. Haslam, the Missoulians' terrific reporting staff reported that you had candid conversations with Coach Hauck about player conduct. I'd like to know what you said to him, A, and B, Coach, what are your explicit expectations of your athletes when it comes to student conduct?
Yeah, Coach Hauck spent a lot of time. That Monday was a long day, right, Bobby? And he met with a number of people throughout the athletic department and outside of the athletic department. And I wanted to make sure that I was comfortable moving forward with Coach Hauck as the head football coach, which I left and I was. But we talked about the dealing with the media. We talked about the Kaiman. We talked about what mistakes were made. How did we get there? We talked about player conduct, the process for evaluations, where were mistakes made? How did those things happen? How are we going to handle those things moving forward? We talked about the Student Athlete Code of Conduct, which is a very strong piece of what we do now, and how we manage conduct by student athletes. And I wanted to make sure that I was comfortable with him being participatory in that process, which absolutely a head coach, I think, are relieved actually to be able to push that discipline things off onto someone where they don't have to be the ones dealing with it. So we did. We talked about, look, if you come back, these are things that will come up. Are you comfortable addressing those things? Are we comfortable talking about those things? And I left feeling very confident that the answers were yes.
You know, I just basically second what Kent said. The Student Athlete Code of Conduct is pretty, it covers pretty much every eventuality, and it's very succinctly laid out. It's a good document. It was well thought out and well developed, and you know, that pretty much lays this, in terms of your question, that pretty much lays the structure for it. Odds are that the football component to that may be a little more stringent.
And I would add, there is no guarantee we're not going to have some kind of an issue in the future. Now, does that mean we throw our hands up and we say, It's just going to happen. No, we don't do that. We work on the front end as intently and intensely as possible to prevent all of those things. But then when those things happen, and they're going to happen, and we'll deal with them, I believe you're consistent, you're fair, and you do things regardless of whether or not that's a front page story or a story that never gets in the paper, because it's an student athlete that people may not be as familiar with. But I'm very confident in that role we play. But I'm also know that we're in the business of education, and we're in the business of trying to teach people to make good choices and then hold them accountable if those choices are not what we expect them to be. Next, sorry. Oh.
Hey, Coach, Ryan Tutel, ESPN Radio.
Hey, Ryan.
Since you left, the Big Sky Conference in general in football seems like it's gotten better kind of across the board. You referenced the return to dominance. What does it take for a place like this with you here to be able to do that, given the new landscape of the Big Sky?
Here we go. We actually talked about that. Hey, by the way, Aunt Mary Lou and Uncle Gunny are here. I didn't see them, so that's good. So, Cousin Chris, Steve, very good. Sorry. So, back to the question. I'm blathering and forgot. No, I didn't really. So the Big Sky Conference. I don't agree with your assessment, really. I think the Big Sky Conference is what it is. I think it is what it has been. I think the one difference right now, and has been the last numerous years, is there's not Montana at the top. I mean, and when Joe was here, and Mick, and the end of Don's tenure, and then my 7 years here, there was always Montana at the top, and then there was some challenger. All right, now I can speak to our time. You know, in 2003 it was kind of Idaho State. In 2004 it was the Bobcats. In 2005 it was Eastern Washington. In 2006 it was probably Eastern again. In 2007 there wasn't anybody. In 2008, it was Weber State. In 2009, there wasn't anybody again to challenge. But the difference in the Big Sky is everybody's equal instead of somebody trying to challenge the Grizz. In my mind. Obviously, we don't have to agree on everything.
Hi,
Amy. Sorry I didn't get back yesterday.
That's okay. You were a little busy. It's all right. So you interviewed for the job the last time there was a vacancy. When did you realize you wanted to come back?
Well, you know, I come back here to the state of Montana every chance I get. I mean, if I got a 3-day weekend, I'm in Montana. If the boss next to me to this side is down with that. But you know, in terms of coming back, this is home for me. So when I retire, I'm going to be here too. But this time around, it's really a good time for me. I addressed this with Ken a little bit, you know, and hindsight's always much clearer than foresight. But 3 years ago, I would have liked to have been here, mostly because it was home. But when you go for 12 years in the head coach's chair consecutively, it naturally wears you down a little bit. And I didn't really realize how far bottomed out I was, and maybe stale in terms of the coaching part. And so the last 3 years have really invigorated me, reinvigorated me. I've got energy. I've got some new ideas because I was exposed to some system other than mine, maybe systems. And so I think now it's the perfect time, Amy, frankly.
You know, I can address that too, if you don't mind. We met with Bobby 3 years ago and talked about that, and I'd agree with what he said. We had great conversations, and even at that time, I felt like, 12 years is a long time, and in my mind, he just got 3 years of an internship and being with somebody that's amazing and reinvigorated and back, I think, at that point where being a head coach is what you really, really want, as opposed to, well, that's what I do.
That's right.
Right? And that's the way I felt 3 years ago and the difference that I felt now is it's not just something that I do because I'm a head coach. It's what I really want this.
Colter Nuanez, ESPN Radio, as well as Skyline
Colter,
Sports.
good to see you,
Yeah,
man.
good to see you, man. Two-part question. Ken, first, what will constitute success, both immediately and long-term? And then, Bobby, given the success that you had here, what do you think of the expectations? Obviously, you will embrace them, but they're sure to be as high as they've ever been in Montana.
Well, I've said this all along. We have high expectations here, and I never apologize for those high expectations in everything that we do. And I'll dodge that question as much as I can. I'm not going to stand up here and say, Bobby, you win a Big Sky Conference championship next year, or that's not what I expect. I mean, we expect that every year. We just do. And I think we have the tools and the things in place to be able to do that. My expectations are really for success on and off the field, and my expectations are for Coach Hauck now to reinsert himself into this campus community, which he was a part of. It's been a while, and things have changed here, but reinsert back in the community, build those relationships, get across the state, shake a lot of hands. You know, those are my expectations. Really, in the football, really with all of our head coaches, but in particular the head football coach, it's got to be a good partnership with that athletic director to be able to set the expectations, follow through on those. But he's also got to coach football. I mean, I understand that. So we want him doing everything.
There you go. Do everything, Colter. There you go. Colter, you've been around me long enough and enough times to know kind of what the expectation is, but so we can get something in print, I'm going to answer the question. You know, the 4 goals at this place are going to remain the same. To get your degree, for our players, they're going to have the same 4 goals: to get your degree, to win the rivalry game, to win the Big Sky Championship, and to win the national championship. It isn't real difficult to figure those ones out, and that is in front of our guys from the day they show up till the day they leave. And in fact, if you talk to some of those guys that played 10, 12 years ago, they can recite those for you. You know, my expectation is for us to win championships here, and we're going to do that. The only variable is time. I don't know how long it's going to take. I will have to get out on the field with our team to give you a more exact assessment of how long I think that's going to take. But we're going to win championships here. Just give us a chance to build it, and we will. We know how to do that.
Bob Pichonity, ABC Fox. Where are you at as far as rounding out your staff? And you have a lot of guys that are currently on staff that are former players for you. So just where are you at in that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and certainly that's the next order of business. Just getting started on that. Got numerous people that I need to visit with. I'm not going to be in any big hurry to complete the staff. I want to take my time on that. So in terms of rounding it out, that will be most likely well after the first of the year to complete that hiring process. But we've got to get out and recruit, so there will be some guys getting going pretty much immediately. As you know, there's some old colleagues, former players, and good friends on the staff, and we're going to have some discussions here as well. But you know, that'll start being released here over the next few days as we get going on it, and we'll keep you abreast as that happens.
Derek Berkeley's got one. Oh, Ryan too. Sorry.
Bobby, Derek Berkeley with KPAX.
Big Timber's finest.
Yeah, go Herders, right?
Second finest.
Maybe third after Tim. I don't know.
Sorry to correct you.
Yeah. Just curious how familiar you are with the roster and the players, and if you've had a chance to say anything to any of the current players with the Bears.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm pretty familiar with the roster. I've watched some. I haven't been able to dig into the game film as of yet, but I've watched some games on TV and have a pretty good handle on
some of it. I've had a chance to look at some of the the scholarship numbers and stuff. That was late last night on the computer screen looking at some of it. It's going to take me a while to put faces with names, but once I get that, it'd be good to know everybody. I know some of the parents too. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case last time I was here. But I know quite a few of the guys on the roster. I've seen a lot of their high school film when they were coming out of high school, so fairly familiar. I wouldn't say intimately familiar, Derek, but know some of the guys.
I know until you become completely familiar, you won't be able to answer this explicitly, but when you come into a team as a new head coach with players already here, what's the interplay between coming in with a system that you want to run as compared to what the players are able to do, and how do you make that amalgamation?
Yeah, what's that last word? Got it. I was going to go, you're not from Butte. All right. Very good.
I can't even spell that.
I shouldn't say it. Now I can't go to Butte. Okay. They don't know what was it again?
Amalgamation.
They don't know. They do know what amalgamation is in Butte. Yeah, they do. You're not from Big Timber. How's that? You'll always game plan to get your guys in the right spot. There's an infinite number of ways to line up 11 guys out there. We're going to get the most out of our players. In terms of style, not so much worried about style. I'm more worried about temperament, intensity, physical play, toughness, never say die attitude. If we do those things, then we'll get the 11 guys lined up. One thing I do believe in terms of early and tenure recruiting, in terms of a coaching staff, is that you'll take a quarterback in every class. You'll probably take a running back in every class. Okay? We're going to try to center our recruiting around the state of Montana. All right? So beyond that, I really believe you can never have enough big guys. Offensive and defensive linemen, tight ends, those are the guys that are hard to find. Everyone in America, from Pop Warner to the Philadelphia Eagles, is starved for big guys. So we have got to go out and search high and low for some guys of stature that we can build in our weight room and in our program. So when we come off the bus or out of that tunnel, people are going, wow, look at those guys. They look pretty good in their unis, and we're going to show you who's boss. And you don't do that without some of those dudes.
We're going to take 2 more questions.
Hey, Bobby. Daniel and Serpy, NBC Montana. What should Grizz fans expect to see different when your team takes the field this upcoming September?
Different from?
From the last couple of years.
I don't really have a great eval on the last couple of years because, as you know, on Saturdays we were kind of engaged otherwise with our own. But what they can expect to see is we're going to go back to playing hard. I don't know, and this is a ticklish question for me because I'm not speaking about anything that transpired here when I wasn't here. But we are going to play hard. We're going to play physical. We're going to play Montana football. We're going to be Montana tough, Montana strong, all those things that we were the last time I was here.
I don't mean to sandbagger, but I know President Stearns is here. I would be curious if you have any thoughts, any comments on this.
Thank you, Edward. I didn't even put you up to this, but I would like to welcome the Hauck family and you, Bobby.
Thanks.
Yeah, just so thrilled.
Good to see you.
I'll just add, as Kent mentioned, he talked about Holly telling him drink water. It's a long week. It's a long 10 days. Same for our president. And that I've been in regular communication with, I think, what will be an outstanding incoming president. and we really share the values that Bobby and Kent just expressed. And that is, first and foremost, we are proud of our university. We're proud of, and I know what, he'll be in living rooms, and probably tomorrow, the next day,
Yeah,
the
for
next
sure
day.
by Sunday.
And here's what we expect, and that is that you are, and this is what we talked about, you are telling those families and reassuring them that at the University of Montana we care first and foremost about the academic and personal success of your family member, and they're attracted to us, of course, because of our setting and our facilities. They're fabulous, but unless we have dignity and respect among our coaching staff and among our student athletes, then we will not succeed. And it took some time and a lot of questioning for me to be completely reassured that even though I have known Bobby Hauck for a really long time, to make sure that the kind of culture that Kent and Jean and others have established here, Rondi, our Dean of Students, and others, we at the University of Montana, and I found this out, by the way, everyone, I started a year ago today as president. Who would have thunk? I mean, I didn't think it was going to be an easy year, but month after month. And what matters to me is the culture that these individuals have established, and that I am completely convinced that Coach Hauck and any assistant coaches and athletes that he brings here will be completely involved with and committed to that high standard, dignity, and respect of all involved. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay, we'll wrap that up, and we're welcome to do one-on-ones if needed. Now, thank you all so very much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Thanks.
You tell Hauck when you get a chance that he really